Doo-doo-doo. All right, good morning, everybody. Jack Leasing with StartupTrading.com. It is March 4th here, 9:05 in the morning. And the title of the video is Extension Short to Target or Target Failure. We're going to find that out here today. So I'm going to blow up, start off with the NASDAQ here this morning. We've been inside of this extension from Friday. I forgot what the day was, the 21st of January. The 10:45 a.m. low is since that basically that sell-off began. We've held this extension multiple times and to target. And yesterday's we opened right on that level again. And I was hoping we'd get all the way up to that 50%, but it never traded. We were front run on that 50%. But if we were to complete that target is going to be that 20,000, 20,110, basically 20,011. So once we start getting down there, definitely something to pay attention to. Now the other question is, can we get a target failure, meaning we don't actually get that profit target and then just rally all the way back up to the top of the range? And you can adjust this extension to the new low just to be aware of where that 38% retracement is, and that's going to be all the way up at 20,903. Now, if we're going to stage a rally here today, I would not be surprised to see us get all the way back to that level, which is basically right around Friday's close and the areas we really broke down from yesterday. So just be aware that I think that lines up with Perry's point of control area, which is pretty interesting. Now, the first thing we're going to need to do is get above those singles, which Perry mentioned, and also the lower mid here held well, but yesterday I went over this level where the lows came from in the NASDAQ, in my opinion, yesterday, where we finally ended up catching that bid. If you go to the daily chart, we are the swing low from September 6th to high has traded its 50% retracement. Okay, and you know, we obviously have been washing out months worth of positions, I think, on these lows, and we're right back to where we were post-election. I mean, this is, you know, if you go to this is a Trump election right here. We literally came back down into where we were trading during the election, and we're at this 50% retracement. This was my discount or level here this morning. It's basically right on it. I think it's going to be very hard to continue shorts below this level at this point in time, and if we do, we're probably just going to the extension target, and we're going to be opening right on that halfway back long. Now, what I'm going to watch, this lower mid here, okay, we've held that all night long, and if you look at yesterday's action, it was a traditional in the morning. It was a little sloppy. We basically pierced the 61, then held the 61, then held the 50% retracement during lunch, and then completed right as we came out of the lunch time frame, and then rallied basically up into, you know, a halfway back short that ran two targets all the way down to its negative 23% profit target, and then that swing high too low here traded, and this has not completed profit target. So that's going to be an important setup going into the morning. We're going to be back inside the setup, but if we can cross above that upper mid and start breaking this traditional sequence, then that would be your first sign that we could maybe rotate all the way up to that point of control area to that higher time frame setup. But you know, we saw this setup here a couple days ago when we swept the low and then rallied. I think that was Friday. We swept the low and then rallied. Now we ended up retesting the low and produced a larger rally into the extension, but this morning we've taken out that prior day low and then immediately basically got back above it. So failure to continue down there, and this is, you know, you have these, I look at this 5-minute chart, you have this move down lower, we're on lows, we're on lows, we're on lows, and then all of a sudden we flip, get a trend bar, single prints, and halfway back long start holding out of low. So I would personally like to see a squeeze here. I am long going in the open, so of course I'm talking my book here, but this move to lows and then back above through lows, which is this dotted blue line, and then you had this traditional. this is going to need to continue, and it's got a lot of room before it really finds its resistance. We could rally literally 200 points off the open, and then find its resistance and still be in short. So Perry was mentioning, sizing today. Definitely be careful. We saw some huge moves yesterday, and I mean, geez, to think how big this candle was, the fact that the open here, within 5 minutes, we were above 21,100, and the lows of the day were about what, like 800 points below that. It's a big boy move. It's a big boy move. Now, if we're super bearish, the overnight highs to lows right here are going to hold immediately. That would definitely be something you'd want to see break, for bulls to really confirm. But that overnight high to low is going to be this 20,427s here. Going into the open, we got about 20 minutes of the open, but those are going to be the important levels. Now, if we, like I said, if we do drop lower here, I'm really going to be, if we take out overnight lows and start holding below it, there's not anything I would even consider looking for support until we get all the way down to the 20,111s, which is the completion of the extension we saw trade at the open. Now, if the extension is not completing, I'm anticipating us to trade that anchor again, maybe before moving lower. But that's what I got here for the NASDAQ and the way I guess I should move this premium level down here. I do want to be aware of the midpoint as potential resistance. So that's going to be 20,719s. I'm going to be very wary of wanting to go long that, go any new longs above that midpoint here. So I am going to drop my premium level to the midpoint. And yesterday the midpoint was support for a bit until we lost it. And they're very, very close to one another. Yesterday, that midpoint here, we actually traded it, rallied like, I don't know, 50 points or something, maybe 30 points. Got back below it, rallied above. We actually completed a long here and before we ran into the short. So that midpoint, very close to today's midpoint, I think is going to be potential resistance, and that is still from where we're trading, quite a ways away, few hundred points above us before maybe running into some major resistance. Now for the ES, same thing. You get that push below the prior day's low and then move back above. The ES is actually still holding the September 11th extension. Its setup is completely different on the daily chart compared to the NQ, and that's the September 11th extension we've been in since September 11th that is never broken. If we do break it, the next thing we would get is the setup that the NASDAQ just got, which is the September low to high. And that is, let's see here, let me draw this all the way to the high. That's down at like a 5780 area. So that would be the next in support I would anticipate below. But right now, we are kind of hanging on by a thread here. Yesterday, I was hoping we would actually get the full halfway back short in the ES, but we never got it. The ES still ended up holding the extension. We got up pretty close to the 61 of the extension here, and that is from the lows of the 20th. Okay, this is what the ES has consistently been in. We traded it here all the way to targets. We got that same anchor new high, and actually looking at it here, that old negative 61 is the overnight low, basically to the tick within a point. That old negative 61 from last week on Wednesday and Thursday, the low is the negative 61. So one of the things, seeing that here now, you're going to want to see the ES break above this extension. Because if we break above this extension, that's a failure to really hold the super aggressive move. And that extension is going to be breaking roughly right at the overnight high. So 58.81s, and same thing. We saw that lower mid hold all night long. If we push above it here off the open, that's going to be a good sign for longs. But yeah, if 58.81s can break, we can squeeze up into that higher time frame setup in this just big broadening formation, people call it, which is basically like a cone where it's like it keeps getting wider and wider. So you like here and then like here, right? Broadening formations are basically extensions because same anchor new lows broaden. They get the targets get bigger, the setups get larger, and it turns into a cone looking thing. Um, so as we go into the open here, if we're holding shorts, the downside target and the ES, if we're pushing lower, which is definitely a possibility that there's more liquidation happening at the open, 57.94 would be the completion, and then below that you have that traditional at 57.83. So on a bearish scenario, if we get down there, I'm not looking for any shorts past that level. Initially, we'd have to spend some time. I would probably just wait for a bigger setup. But if we can rally off the open and break this extension, we can maybe just get back up to those points of control Perry was talking about. But that is going to need to happen in order for that to trigger. So we're opening very close to the prior day's low. And it's going to be interesting considering how hard the selling was going into close. So with that being said, I will share these levels with you guys in the room. Market opens about 15 minutes, and we'll see what she's got in store for us. Take care.